My special guests are Ambassador Andy Mashaila of Interpol, Wilfred Radigan, attorney at law, retired special agent of the FBI, Herbert Nelson Jr., chairman of the Crime Security Committee Group Institute of Caribbean Studies in Washington, D.C. We'll be live on the Make We Talk Jeffrey Tavares YouTube channel. That's this Tuesday, January 3rd, 2023, on Roots 96.1 FM from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. The voice of the inner city. Proud sponsors of the Make We Talk show are Browns Media and Graphics Design, Tavares Media Group, and WDT Media. Don't you dare miss this one.
My Highland Town salute. My Highland Town salute.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Make We Talk here on Roots 96.1 FM, where we're listening from around the world in the Eastern Caribbean. We are live on the Make We Talk program. I am Jeffrey Tavares. Our student numbers are 876-225-948. That's 876-225-9478. 876-225-9478. This morning we're going to speak about transnational organized crime. But before we go there are so many things happening around the world and indeed in our beloved island, Jamaica. We had the New Year's celebration and, the Prime Minister decided to give the country an extra day for holiday. And to me, that's nonsense. That's stupidness. But anyway, let's not get into that part. This morning, I have with me a special guest, Ambassador to South Africa, Andy Mashaila. He is also in charge of Interpol. He's ambassador for Interpol. I have with me also Wilfred Radigan, retired special agent of the FBI. Herb Nelson Jr., chairman of the Crime Security Committee Group Institute of Caribbean Studies in Washington, D.C. This morning, we're going to dig deep in transnational organized crime. Gentlemen, good morning and welcome to Make We Talk.
Good morning to you, Jeffrey.
Good morning.
Sir Andy.
Good morning. Brother Andy, how you doing? Good to see you.
Good from my side. Good afternoon to Jamaica. Like they say in Jamaica, in Patois, what a guan, Jamaica, what a guan.
There you go, Andy.
Lots going on.
I see Wilfred been drilling you on that stuff.
Yeah, Andy's one of us, man, and we're one of him,
There you go. Yeah.
Welcome again, Ambassador. Welcome to the airways of Roots 96.1 FM and the airways of the Jeffrey Tavares, the Make We Talk Jeffrey Tavares YouTube channel, and also Jam Talk Vibes Radio, an internet radio owned and operated by yours truly. We're live on that also. Ambassador, there are so many things to talk about, but I want you to tell us, what is transnational crime?
Transnational organized crime.
Yes.
Is crime that gets committed in Jamaica, and the spoils thereof are then dropped off in South Africa, and from South Africa to another country. That's crime that goes across the borders. Anyway, crime does not respect borders, and criminals have identified the gap in terms of the geographic and physical borders that ourselves as people pushing the criminal justice cluster or in the criminal justice space or mobilizing communities in the transnational crime space criminals have identified the gaps that the geographic and country boundaries or borders have set for us in terms of pursuing them whilst they do their business. They know that when crime is committed in South Africa and find the fugitive or the recipients of the proceeds of crime in Jamaica. It is a difficult exercise for the South African police services or for the Jamaican constabulary force to come through to South Africa and arrest an individual. So what they would do is they would ride on the waves of one, technology, two, restrictive legislative frameworks, three, lack of cooperation between law enforcement agencies at the local JCF and the local SAPS, or the local Lesotho National Police Service, or the Zimbabwe law enforcement, or the Mozambican law enforcement. Criminals would operate based in Nigeria, scam the romance scam women on Tinder, send that money to America, and from America to Cape Town, and you arrest them at the end of 2021. 8 of them arrested in Cape Town. 9 is arrested in Douglasdale, in South Africa. So, long and short, transnational crime is crime that has made use of the various weaknesses from a law enforcement point of view, also exploiting the cyberspace, riding on the cyberspace, riding on the ignorance of cyberspace by communities and victims of crime, and also riding on the cyberspace or the fourth industrial revolution, capitalizing on the fact that local police stations do not have the necessary resources to pursue transnational criminals.
It's a mouthful. You have anything to say, Mr. Rattigan?
Yeah. Ambassador, welcome again. Good to see you. Let me ask you this question, just for our listening audience, because this even though it's going worldwide, I suspect that a lot of people in Jamaica they're not aware of Interpol, and they're not aware of the things that Interpol is capable of doing. And so I would like to start off by just asking you this question: what is Interpol, and what role does it play in international transnational organized crime between countries?
Interpol is an international policing organization comprising of 194 member countries. One of the key objectives of this international policing organization is to make sure that it coordinates law enforcement agencies in the criminal justice cluster in the pursuit of criminals, be it cybercrime, be it the drugs crime, be it human trafficking, be it trafficking in the children. You and I would talk about red notices, which are well known or famous for pursuing fugitives. Did you know that you have a yellow notice, and a yellow notice is for missing kids? Did you also know that you have a black notice? A black notice is for the unidentified bodies of people killed overseas for one or the other reason. So Interpol would then bring about the Jamaican Constabulary Force and SAPS together in terms of pursuing this criminal who has committed crime in South Africa, be it hacking, be it disclosing national secrets, and he runs to Jamaica. So SAPS will then go to the National Crime Bureau in Pretoria, where some of us have relatives in terms of professional relatives. They would go to that house, the National Crime Central Bureau, and they would say, Interpol South Africa, please get in touch with Jamaican or Kingston, for the want of a better word, of the capital city there. Kingston and National Central Bureau, please communicate with us so that we can be able to tell you where Mr. X is hiding in Jamaica. We have an address of Mr. X in Jamaica. Obviously, after conducting intelligence in South Africa and finding out where this guy might have run to, where are the relatives, where are the members of this organization, of the organization that this particular person belongs to. So the two national central bureaus would talk together, and Jamaican constabulary force would then go out and arrest that individual on behalf of Interpol Pretoria or Interpol South Africa, and then identify Interpol South Africa to say, we have found the fugitive that you're looking for. This gentleman is in our custody. So please prepare. It now moves from the law enforcement agencies to the Department of Justice, who are then tasked with the responsibility of the extradition process. That's what Interpol, long and short, does. They also have a campaign that I am responsible for, called Your 10 Back Crime campaign. At the heart of this campaign is the belief that crime starts with your money. The fake cell phone chargers that we buy on the robots in Jamaica and in South Africa, and the fake cell phone batteries and the fake cell phone gadgets. I'm just going to use a specific example with regard to the telephones, because they are a gadget that we consume information from and get knowledge from or do research from. These chargers that we buy at the robots at the stop street, those fake or counterfeit goods would then, the money thereof would then find its way back to China or back to the manufacturers, who may not necessarily be dealing only with the production of the fake goods. They might also be involved in human trafficking, getting your modern day slaves from Africa, women, for sexual exploitation, promising them that there is a job in India, where these women would arrive in India from Kenya and Malawi or South Africa and find themselves being slaves, sexual slaves. In the same breath, young women from my community being promised by mostly the Nigerian criminals that when you go to Brazil and go and purchase your Brazilian hair or any other of those types of wigs that they have, please bring us the suitcases, or we've got books that we want. You and I know, Will and Ep would know that in the middle of those books, it would look like a book, but there would be drugs. And these poor women would not know the modus operandi of the drug dealers. And they would come through with that stuff through the airport. They would come through the airport, the airport in Jamaica, pass, if they have the ability to pass, and be arrested in either Cape Town or your OR Tambo International in Johannesburg. So long story short, Interpol would then be involved in hunting down the criminal after the victim has obviously shared their experience with your law enforcement agencies at the place and moment where this particular person has been arrested.
Mr. Nelson? Unmute your mic for Mr. Herb.
Yeah, good morning to our illustrious guests from South Africa, and as well as Mr. Rattigan, who served in South Africa as well. What I'd like to ask directly, the African Union, 6th region, is an expansion to include all Africans in the Americas as well as the Caribbean. We see the closer movement to expand business and to have a direct reach from Africa into the Caribbean and from the Caribbean into Africa without intermediaries. In other words, no middleman. What does that portend, do you believe, for transnational crime if there's no direct links where we have airlines or even ships going directly from the Caribbean into the African states whether it's South Africa, whether it's up to, the Kenyan coast or the Nigerian, the western coast area of Africa. Are you seeing anything on the horizon with what is currently happening right now, even though it's on a small scale? And we know that with the recent direct conferences between the Caribbean and African states, that they're getting ready to expand. Is there a warning that you would have for heads of Caribbean governments in this regard?
Thanks, Ed, for the wonderful question. One, the crime that is happening today and now suggests one or two things to Africa in diaspora, Africa in Jamaica, Africa in South Africa, Africa in Kenya, and in Guinea-Bissau, and in the western part of the continent. It suggests one thing to you and I from an analysis point of view. When I am a criminal, or if I am a criminal, I am going to look 10 years ahead of now in terms of ensuring that my crime organization survives. And I am going to look at those enablers that will make sure that I stretch my tentacles. One of those enablers would be technology. One of those enablers would be the free movement between countries. Three, one of those enablers would be the kind of people in terms of discipline and authority, as well as effective and efficient management of systems. What systems am I referring to here? Your border management, your port management, port security, border management security. And I would then, in that space, when I'm a criminal, I would then say, how can I penetrate the difficult defenses in terms of what I've mentioned as effective and efficient border management and port management? I would look at the weaknesses. And by the way, in my private life, I am a strategist. Will you know that very well? So we always look for strategies before we go to a place, before we go to battle with many other of those law enforcement agencies. We do the necessary research, and the necessary research begins with cooperation between your hijackers in North America and the hijackers in West Africa, in Guinea-Bissau, and the drug dealers in Guinea-Bissau and the drug dealers in Latin America cooperate, and the drug dealers in Latin America cooperating with the drug dealers in South Africa. Remember that in 2021, 21 tons of cocaine were confiscated in South Africa. Part of that 21 tons that were confiscated in South Africa would be 111 or 101 tons that were sent from Latin America through South Africa as a transit point of cocaine to Australia and Eastern Africa. Those 101 tons found their way to various countries, including Australia. The guys who are running here got paid with the 21 tons or the 21 tons that were confiscated by our law enforcement agencies. And thank you to General Libya of the Hawks, the Directorate for Prioritized Crime, or for Priority Crimes, what we call the Hawks. So long story short, there will be an increase in the commission of crime. Given the simple stats and given the simple analysis that I'm sharing with you, Eb, and the viewers, as well as Jeffrey and my wonderful brother, Wilfred Rettigan, we are going to see new platforms being developed and new channels of distribution being developed in those countries or in and amongst those countries by the criminals. Let me also cite an example. Criminals know that there are pregnant women in all of those countries, and those women go to clinics and they can extract the addresses or the email addresses when they hack those clinics in our communities, and they get access to the names, and they engage those pregnant women from the details that they have harvested criminally, so, and target those women and say, we are now producing diapers, we are now producing baby formula, and purchase those diapers and the baby formula from us. We are organization A or B, and the women, the pregnant women or mothers to be, will then send money over the internet and either get one, a fake good, two, the goods don't come, even though they are advertised as cheap from China or as cheap from any of those countries. So long story short, crime is going to be on the increase, given what is happening now. And my projections are in the next 5 years or so, new distribution channels are going to be developed, new method to evade being arrested, and policing organizations or law enforcement agencies disrupting those new supply chains.
I take it then that this ties into what we refer to here in the U.S. as globalization, where the free-flowing goods and services across the entire globe has allowed so much movement of goods being transitioned at various ports. It's just about impossible for the police or customs, rather, I should say customs, to search every barrel or every container. So what we find is there's a move to get technology to be able to pry into containers. Some of these containers, weigh as much as 20 tons, and some as little as 5 pounds or what have you. But still, technology-wise, is Interpol prepared to introduce and to expand in various regions, along with the expansion of crime? I know Interpol does a lot of analysis, but are they willing to now use that analysis to support regional police organizations in discovering more efficient methods of searching across, the cargoes on board ships? I know there are shipwright agreements where they search at sea, but we know there's a lot of stuff coming into ports. Is there technology out there that can enhance the searching of these various cargoes?
Interpol just introduced a feature online called Metaverse Police. Those guys, I don't know if they enjoy what they're doing or not. They put your VR virtual reality things here, and they scour, they search, they scavenge the internet, checking for crime and criminals. The Metaverse Police spend a lot of time on the deep web and dark web, which is what ordinary law enforcement agencies at Jamaica Constabulary Force at SAPS in South Africa has not really been provided with the necessary resources to can specialize and spend time on the deep web and dark web, which is where, as you and I are talking, and Jeff and Will are listening in on us, the criminals now are busy on the deep web and dark web. When you go to live threat map, you know from your background. When you access your live threat map, either by Kaspersky Labs and all others who are tracking crime, you would know right now that there would be in excess of about from the morning on my part, from 8 o'clock until now, there would be about 100 million attacks all over the world of cyber criminals operating from rogue states, operating from criminals all over the world, criminals from Africa attacking your systems there in Jamaica, trying to gain access in order to steal personal identifiable information. So long story short, my advice, which is where I am concluding or summing up your question and your statement, and my advice would be for local law enforcement agencies in our two countries. And by the way, for me, Jamaica is my second home. I can't wait to visit Jamaica in June and walk down the streets and look at the people. And strangely so, yesterday I watched Marked for Death, that movie by Steven Seagal, and I saw Jimmy Cliff singing on the singing in on that movie, and I liked the song, and I was dancing around. My wife and the kids were saying, "Wow, you're enjoying yourself." I said, "You know, if my second home was to be nearer, I would be spending a lot of time there." So long story short, government, particularly our presidents or prime ministers, and those who are responsible for law enforcement and the criminal justice cluster, your minister of justice as well as your minister of police, must find people who are savvy in cyber security, who are savvy with technology, so that they can be operating in tandem with development of the time. I don't want our police officers or criminal justice cluster operatives to be game changers. No, I think we have gone beyond that tired term of game changers. We want our local law enforcement agencies to be game winners. When we change the game for criminals, criminals change our game because we are slow. We don't have the technology. We don't have the wherewithal. We don't have the jammers that we need to have. You don't have the grabbers. For instance, the grabbers that you use, some of them are 3G, and technology has now stepped up to 5G. And you know that for you to be able to be a step ahead of your adversary, in this case, criminals being a step ahead of us, they use technology. And we need to climb onto that bandwagon and ensure that technology at law enforcement, local law enforcement level is available. And you train the intakes that you have now should be technology, fourth industrial revolution smart, so that we can then be able to say when there is a crime, the police would be able to track. If this phone, if the gadgets that you're operating from are stolen, the young constables there at JCF and SAPF should be able to go onto the smart desk,
Sorry, Ambassador,
on the smart desk and pick it up.
Ambassador, sorry to cut in with you. We have a commercial break we need to go to. So much wealth of information from Ambassador. We'll be right back. We're going to take a quick commercial break here on Roots 96.1 FM. We're watching and listening from around the world in the Eastern Caribbean. This is Make We Talk. We'll be right back.
My Highland don't salute. My Highland don't salute.
New Budget Supplies Massive Rice Buster now on. Want to redo that kitchen? Retile that old floor? Stop that leaking roof? Make over the bathroom? It's now or never. White toilet from $14,999. 5-gallon paint from $6,599. Gypsum board $1,749. 15% off UPVC French windows. 10% off kitchen sinks, water tanks, and pumps. 195 Hackleburg Road. Telephone 923-4560. New Budget Supplies. Always the best prices.
Do you need graphic design services? Or maybe you need branding for your business? How about multimedia production services? Contact Browns Media and Graphics at 876-877-1870. Browns Media and Graphics, developing your ideas, creating your style.
For the best in music videos, production and promotions, wedding, graduations, and much more, look no further. WDT Media TV is your first stop. Call us now at 876-376-8418 or email us at wdtmedia@gmail.com. Call us now. We offer the best quality at the best price. Do not hesitate to call WDT Media TV.
Backyard Magazine presents the Music Feel Reggae Show on Roots FM with Music Feel, DJ Sogi and SK. Every Wednesday, 5 p.m. till 6:30 p.m. This is the complete show where you get music updates, artist interviews and reviews. The Music Feel Reggae Show is brought to you by the legendary Backyard Magazine. Know your roots.
This broadcast is also brought to you by Tavares Media.
My Highland don't.
We now rejoin our host, Jeffrey Tavares.
Much, Owen. Thank you very much. Welcome back to Make We Talk here on Roots 96.1 FM. The voice of the inner city. The voice of the voiceless Jamaicans. I am Jeffrey Tavares, the people's defender. With me, I have Wilfred Radigan, the rebel, Sir Herb Nelson Jr., and our special guest, Ambassador of Interpol, Andy Mashaila. Am I pronouncing your last name correctly, Ambassador?
Yes, sir. Mashaile.
Mashaile.
Mashaile, yes.
Yeah, Mashaile. Ambassador,
Yeah.
it is a pleasure to have you on, because I am sitting here and I'm listening to you. There is so much wealth of information that you and Sir Herb Nelson Jr. is giving to us this morning, especially you. I mean, when you listen to how you speak about the role of Interpol and so forth, a lot of Jamaicans never know the role of Interpol, A lot of us never know the role of what Interpol stands for. A question I need to ask you. You have something to say, Mr. Rattigan? Unmute your mic for me.
Pardon?
Yeah. I just wanted to ask my brother Andy this question. Interpol has 190 some odd country members, and there is a representative in Jamaica. However, he or she seems to be missing in action, and I say that because I'm trying to make a comparison between South Africa and Jamaica. The crime problems are similar. Yet, when I look at you, Ambassador, in terms of public outreach, I see you all over the space. I was just saying, South Africa, I see you all over the show. I see you on TV. I hear you on radio. I see you at special events. I see you at meetings with businesses. I see you at meetings with communities. I see you at meetings with government officials. And you're spreading that message out there. You're saying, look, Interpol is here and we serve a significant purpose in terms of assisting law enforcement and the communities with the reduction and the control of crime. I don't see that in Jamaica. In fact, if you ask anyone in Jamaica who is the Interpol ambassador to South Africa, they know the name Andy Mashaile. They also know that there is an office, as you mentioned, and you and I, we used to deal with that office. There's a SAPS person who is responsible for the intake of stuff to deal with Interpol, but you sit above that. Again, the point I'm making and the question I'm asking is that I see you everywhere and there is public outreach. I don't see that in Jamaica. What would you suggest to the person who's sitting in that chair in Jamaica? What would you suggest for them to do to make the public more aware? And this is following up, and I hate to steal my brother's thunder, but he was about to ask you a similar question.
Go ahead.
But what would you suggest to them to do to make the public more aware of Interpol and its responsibilities and its role and what it can do to assist with crime fighting?
A number of things. One, my colleague over there or my colleagues over there who might be ambassadors of the Interpol, they would need to go out to the communities, build relationships, spend time with people on the ground. You know, Will, I go to churches to go and listen to people. I go on interviews. You want to open up a window of opportunity for people to tell you that, one, they have a property in New Jersey. That property is being stolen by the landlord. They would come to Sentin police station and talk to Kane, and Kane would say, no, but I have a brother who's with Interpol, and I get involved. And we ask them to open an inquiry with Interpol Pretoria, send it to New Jersey, and New Jersey Interpol would then go out to that landlord and say, the owners of this property have received the following communication from yourselves. What is going on? And they would investigate, and the police, I don't know whether they call them the New Jersey Police Department, something like that. They would go and interrogate the landlord and say, we see you have changed the particulars of the owners to strange owners. This property belongs to a particular person A and his sister. We therefore advise you not to continue doing this, because this is a fraudulent change of ownership. When we go out there and do this for communities, people begin to have a sense of understanding of what Interpol, particularly the 10 Back Crime is, the 10 Back Crime campaign. So my colleagues would be not having the time, if I put it that way, or would not be ready, or would, I wouldn't know what challenges they are experiencing. But long story short would be for them, amongst others, to engage with people like us so that we can visit them in China, in Jamaica, and have exchange programs where we share experiences that says, what are the challenges? Having spent a lot of time since the first time in Jamaica, in spirit and not physically, since the first time I listened to Bob Marley and the Wailers, Babylon by Bass, and falling in love with Jamaica, and all of us listening to Bob Marley in South Africa, each and every township knowing Bob Marley and the rebel music, like I'm with the rebels online here. We would then need to go on exchange programs, like family exchange programs, like professional exchange programs, like a local police station constables exchange programs, to spend time with the Jamaican constabulary force, where they shadow the guys, and the guys come over to us in terms of visiting the informal settlements in our communities through the arrangement of Interpol. Interpol should have a program where there is a free flow of knowledge, information gathering, intelligence gathering, and use it to beef their own systems. Sometimes JCF and Interpol in Jamaica may be operating from an intelligence-driven initiative. They would want to be quiet so as not to create a lot of cases for themselves in terms of inquiries. I'd rather go out there and support SAPS and the Hawks, so that those who are here from other countries would then be able to know where to go, how to go, where to start, and how to get services for those that they have left back home in their mother or father countries. So long story short, we need to exchange information in terms of mobilization of communities. A month ago, I was on SABC Full View. You have been on that program with me, Will. We were talking about South Africa as a transit point. We're talking about the drugs being on the increase, or drug supply being on the increase in our country. And in that month, I was able to generate 70,000 views or viewers of that program. So that suggests that people begin to have a sound understanding of what Interpol is and how does it help policing. I grew up watching Interpol guys on the movies. I actually believe that this thing does not exist. It's just movie stuff until I got appointed by Interpol way back in 2014. This is my 9th year in Interpol. By 2024, on the 22nd of October, it will be my 10th anniversary as an ambassador of the 10 Back Crime campaign. This campaign, I am sure, stretches up to Jamaica, 194 countries. So the ambassadors out there, I would have picked up Bob Marley as an ambassador in the space of justice, security, and safety, or any other of those influential individuals, to ensure that they generate interest in our communities, interest from a security and safety point of view. When people are interested in security, in safety and security, obviously the numbers increase on availability and mobilization, and the numbers of crimes or the crime stats would reduce because of the willingness of communities to work in the space of safety and security.
Ambassador, I am here trying to figure out if I should ask you this question. I run it by my good friend Will, but he hasn't answered me, so I'm going to ask the question. The Jamaican Prime Minister went to Washington, D.C. to speak with law enforcement people over there, along with the Commissioner of Police. The Minister of National Security hasn't traveled outside of Jamaica. Only way I know he has been to is St. Lucia. I beg to ask the question, is it that the Jamaican Minister of National Security cannot travel? Do you have any idea if Interpol have any, should I say red flag on him or anything like that? I don't, maybe you can't go into so many details here if you know.
Repeat your question, Jeff. I couldn't hear you very clear.
Okay, are you hearing me now?
Yeah.
Yes. I'm saying to you, the Prime Minister of Jamaica went to Washington, D.C. about maybe a week or a month ago to speak with American law enforcement pertaining to the crime situation that is plaguing Jamaica. He took the Commissioner of Police, the Minister of National Security, who everybody is saying should be the one to meet with American law enforcement. The question I want to ask, is it that, well, we don't know if the Minister of National Security cannot travel. What I'm asking is this, and maybe you can't go into so much details. Do you have any idea if Interpol has any red flag or anything on the Minister of National Security, why he can't travel? The only place he has traveled to is St. Lucia.
Jeff, I wouldn't know the merits of the matter of the case, but I'm definitely sure that if there's a red flag, if there's a red notice, if there is some form of request or blocking of the traveling of the minister, there would need to be an investigation with Interpol just to find out what the problems are. And from there, my wonderful Minister of National Security on your side would then be able to know what the challenges are. I don't know what the challenges are. I don't know what the problems are, but I'm sure if the Honorable Minister of National Security would be interested in finding out your commission of controlling of the Interpol files, okay, would then be able to find out why is it that he cannot travel? I'm not really sure whether it's politics or it's matters that have to do with criminal justice or it's matters that have to do with enforcement of some request, policing request from country A or country B. I'm not sure. I find it a little bit difficult to can express a sober opinion because I don't know the merits of the matter. But surely Interpol Jamaica or Interpol head office in Lyon, they would be able to help the national minister. I wanted to say the boss man of policing, lovingly so. Yeah, I want to leave it at that. Let's look at why is it that you cannot travel through your Interpol Commission for the Control of Interpol files. Yes.
Go ahead.
Let me just add some texture to this. Let me put some meat on the bones to this, Ambassador. And Herb is well equipped to speak about this subject as well. And I hope I'm not stealing his thunder. But back in, I think it's 2010 or thereabouts, somewhere when they had the WikiLeaks cables, when the cables came out from all the U.S. embassies globally, a series of cables came out of the embassy in Jamaica, and at least one of those cables identified the current minister.
Miriam,
Who is this? Hold on.
program start.
At least one of those cables identified the current Minister of National Security as being involved, peripherally and otherwise, with a criminal organization that was involved in drug running, gun smuggling, murders, extortion, so on and so forth. This was before he became Minister of National Security. Then he became Minister of National Security. Then he became Minister of National Security, and people are still wondering, why did the Prime Minister make him or appoint him Minister of National Security? People are wondering if it had to do with secrets between them, or why was he trying to protect him? Because once they installed him as the Minister of National Security, then it becomes difficult for anyone to investigate him in Jamaica. Now, I just looked up the national Central Bureau for Interpol in Jamaica, and it's headed by an Assistant Commissioner of Police, and it's part of the Operations and Crime Division, and they answer directly to the Commissioner of Police. Now, the Commissioner of Police answers to the Minister of National Security, and the Minister of National Security, he has some cables with some derogatory information about him that was compiled by the Americans in Jamaica. So he hasn't traveled to the U.S. and so it was cause for concern. And then recently, the Prime Minister traveled to the U.S. to meet with the FBI, DEA, ATF, State Department, and others to discuss crime. And the question was, where is the person under whose portfolio this is? This is not the Prime Minister's portfolio. This is the Minister of National Security. So people are wondering, hey, wait a minute, maybe there is a red notice or some notice out there. And that's why he hasn't traveled. Because when I say we, Jamaica gets a significant amount of assistance from the U.S. government every year for law enforcement. And for some reason, we don't see him traveling to enhance this relationship. He just sits there in Jamaica. He doesn't go anywhere. And every time there's an issue regarding crime, it's the Prime Minister who's speaking. And even if he's on stage, he's reduced to like a cameo role. He'll answer one question, but the main focus is on the Prime Minister. So that's why Jeffrey was asking the question, if there is anything that is within the province of Interpol. And I know you wouldn't answer anyway. You would say, I can neither confirm nor deny. So, Herb,
go ahead, Ambassador.
No, Herb is speaking.
Oh, go ahead, sir. Herb. Go ahead.
Okay. let me just unplug the pressure cooker for you here.
Before you all go any further, there's somebody coming on the Zoom. Anybody give up the Zoom link?
No.
No? Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Unplug the pressure cooker.
Ambassador, I want you to regard Herb as your good friend here. Let's look at the region. Let's look at Interpol here in the U.S. Is Interpol in the U.S. responsible for the Caribbean region, or is there a specific Caribbean Interpol office? Because what we have in the Caribbean is CARICOM, much like there is AFRICOM, right?
Yeah.
Or the AU, I should say, African Union. You now have CARICOM Impacts, which has a responsibility to train law enforcement in the Caribbean. And I must say that the current leader of Impacts has embraced the Interpol from the start, from last 2-3 years, and have brought them into the fold to do a lot of training and classes and develop the officers here in the Caribbean. It would appear, though, that those are the only meetings that our esteemed National Security Minister in Jamaica, along with the Commissioner of Police, will attend when it comes to CARICOM meetings. That's as far as he goes. He'll go to Trinidad or to Guyana, wherever the meeting is. Last one was in the Bahamas, I believe. And this occurs in July, and then he returns home. Now, wouldn't it be up to that particular regional office of Interpol to advise the Prime Minister of Jamaica if there was something out there on any of his ministers, for that matter? And even though I've said that, we know that several ministers had their visas revoked based on Homeland Security investigations in Jamaica. But we did not see any follow-up investigations to the revocation of those U.S. visas. And several of those revocations were tied to perceived criminal activities. If you are advising the president of South Africa about 6 ministers who have had their visas revoked in South Africa, would it be prudent for South Africa to do its own investigations to either validate or in some way give support to the ministers that revocation is incorrect or uncalled for? Just wanted to get your opinion on that.
Ed, in politics, when we get asked for advice, as a strategist myself, they would look at beefing up numbers that would keep you as the prime minister or as the head of a football club or as the head of a Costco in America, sitting at the head of the board or of the table of the board. So you would look for people who will help you realize that dream of yours of becoming the president of, I'm just using Costco as an example, or Pick n Pay in South Africa as an example, or Sprint or Mobile T. You would then need to have people who are sympathetic to your cause, whether those individuals deserve to be there or not. And I'm not for a minute suggesting that the national minister belongs there or he does not. I'm going to steer away from politics and give you a strategic angle as a professional advisor if I were to advise. I am now analyzing the context or the situation in context. This is what you and I would be referring to as landscaping before you can go and look for the battleground or a suitable place to pitch up camp. I'm not sure what the relationship is between various members of the party that have elected whomever they elected, and the relationship between him and the esteemed or honorable national minister. I would go to the second point and say there is a process in South Africa that's called a criminal record expungement. That criminal record expungement, when one has been convicted, the criminal record can be expunged by the president. I am not sure from the picture that the image that Will has put on the canvas of this discussion and knowledge session. I'm not sure if those WikiLeaks emails or that package or that open intelligence that was unraveled by WikiLeaks, I'm not sure if the minister, in terms of the relationship that was established through WikiLeaks documents, the organization where that he's accused of having aided and abetting in the commission of crime, allegedly so. I'm not sure if he has been charged for those crimes, and I don't know what is the scene of the crimes that were committed. And secondly, I don't know what he was allegedly accused of, the crimes that he was accused of. I'm not sure if maybe one of the charges would be money laundering, would be drug distribution, would be any of those crimes that you and I know. I'm not sure. But if there is that process, the honorable minister, I think, deserves the right to investigate and be given an opportunity to explain himself, so that at the end of the day, should the president pardon him, he would then be able to carry the seal in his pocket, for the want of a better word, that says my criminal records or the crimes that I have been allegedly accused of have been expunged by the president or by the people of Jamaica. And therefore, any other country that is looking for me would know that if those crimes or if that organization was operating in Jamaica, I'm not sure of the contents of the merits of the case. He would be able to go and plead his case wherever in the world. In the US, if the US is looking for him, maybe it's not traveling because he has his name, he has a red notice against his name for international or transnational crime that has been committed one way or the other. It would be up to the honorable and esteemed national minister, Minister of National Security, to say, I want to explain myself given what is contained in the explosive WikiLeaks files. And he would then need to write one way or the other to the Commission for the Control of Internet, of Interpol files, so that he can get a better understanding of what to do.
Ambassador, can Interpol form a relationship between the police service, well, the JCF and the police service in South Africa? And because, you know, Jamaica and South Africa has the same crime pandemic, in a sense. So would you suggest to the Jamaican authorities, the Commissioner of Police and the Minister of National Security, and go further to the Prime Minister, that they forge a relationship to see what they can do? Because the same thing is happening in South Africa, where cocaine is being seized, cocaine is traveling through Jamaican waters and so forth. So do you think that they should have a relationship, sir?
They should have a relationship, Jeff, for this one simple reason. It's not about the officials warring against each other or pitching up battle camps or going onto the battlefield for themselves and the offices that the respective offices that they are holding. It would be for the safety and security of the people of Jamaica, safety and security and the people of South Africa. They would go on a country-to-country kind of relationship, establish those bilaterals as we normally see on TV. And those bilaterals on the one end would be for the prevention, crime prevention or prevention of crime and combating of crime and sharing of relevant information that would enable the integrity of those who are charged with their responsibility for the criminal justice cluster activities and welfare of the people and of the state. Remember, these matters are matters that have to do directly with national security. When we have gaps in the national security, we're opening up our countries to national security threats, and that might pose a challenge in the long run as respective countries and respective criminal justice clusters. I'm sure that the Minister of National Security and the Minister of Justice, I don't know what they call the minister, whether it's a he or a her in Jamaica, they would need to cooperate and find common ground. And I'm sure state law advisors would then be able to advise the National Security Minister as well as the President on a complicated subject like the one that we are discussing. I'm sure there might be reasons why the minister is not traveling. Having it picked up just from a simple analysis, there might be a red notice against the minister. I am not sure. I'm just looking at why is it that he cannot travel, and I am going to extrapolate from the skinny information that I've picked up and come to a skinny conclusion and provide a skinny advice, so that at the end of the day we don't create a problem for the minister to travel, as well as a safety and security increase the safety and security profile for the minister as a person traveling overseas and he gets grabbed by either criminals who are involved in the organization that is alleged to have relationships with, and get the minister killed or any of those things that we have seen. As a security advisor, the security of the minister in person is paramount to any other thing that comes. Secondly, what the minister knows from a security briefing and intelligence briefings would help the minister understand better. So long story short, it is a complicated subject that wants one to talk from a point of being well informed. There's a Chinese man who's advising me, who died thousands of years ago. One of them is Sun Tzu from The Art of War. I love this other gentleman called Zhuge Liang, who says, the wise win before they fight, while the ignorant fight to win. Close quote. Open quote. The wise win before they fight, whilst the ignorant fight to win. So if I take advice from this man, if I take my own advice, I will not go into the battlefield if I don't know what's in that battlefield. And I will not go into that battlefield of seeking information when I don't have intelligence, when I don't know what is going on. I would send out my scouts to ensure that I get the best advice to formulate a strategic move, so that my tactics are informed by strategy. Why is it that I was part and parcel of those WikiLeaks files, and how best can I get out of it? Do I need to explain? Do I need to write a letter to someone else? Do I need to talk to someone else who can help me so that I can travel internationally and do what the people of the country are paying me for? This is a complicated subject. I'm not an expert on the minister, and I'm not an expert on your situation. I'm just, I'm like a dark man. I'm like a man in a dark room looking for a black cat with a fishing rod. So I'm going to stop there.
All right, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question.
Go ahead, Rocky. Go ahead.
Recently, and I know that South Africa is struggling with its crime problem, but they're coming up with initiatives. And so I think it's important for some of those initiatives to be shared. I say that in the context that the Prime Minister and the Prime Minister of Jamaica and the Police Commissioner of Jamaica recently traveled, as my host, the host alluded to, traveled to the US to seek assistance regarding crime fighting. And it was crime fighting in the sense that barrels or goods were being shipped to Jamaica, and the allegation is that, there is a lot of truth to the allegation that barrels and containers were shipped to Jamaica containing contraband, particularly illegal weapons. Now, the question I want to ask you is this: if you could provide some guidance and some counsel to the Prime Minister in his role as crime minister, since the Minister of National Security didn't travel with him. So now he's responsible for addressing all of these crime issues. Would you have asked him, would you have suggested to him that, look, why don't you meet with Interpol as well to look at emerging threats? For example, in South Africa, there is cash in transit. We don't have a lot of that in Jamaica. But you know, if it's successful in one part of the world, criminals will transplant it to another part of the world. ATM bombings, for example. We don't have much of that in Jamaica, but you know, if it's successful in one part of the world, they're going to transplant it to another part of the world. So would you, in your advisory role to the Prime/crime minister, and when I say crime, I don't mean he's involved in crime, I mean he's discussing crime on behalf of the National Security Minister, would you say to him, look, when you get to America, why don't you go talk to Interpol in the US to see if they have any intelligence regarding the movement of goods, contraband to the Caribbean, particularly Jamaican, and forge a relationship with them. The reason for that, I'm making the argument, is because we don't hear from Interpol in Jamaica. We just don't hear from them.
Will, you would know that your National Central Bureau of Interpol would be based in the office of the National Minister. And in that case, in your case, I learned that it's based in the office of the Deputy National Police
Commissioner. Correct.
Yes. You and I would know that in the event of a nature of the subject that we are discussing, intelligence is key and critical. And intelligence would mean looking at the landscape, looking at crimes of the future, looking at platforms on which those crimes are going to be committed, looking at the new modus operandi of committing crime. When you steal a car and when you hijack a car, you still do one thing. You still take that vehicle without the owner's authority. So if I were to sit with the minister, like I sat with General Stolle, you remember very well, in the drafting, and General Petros from 2010, when some of us were together at Chokoza, and Minister Becky Fellow was Commissioner of Police, where you and I met and were discussing a number of things. I would go and look at what is it that the people did in order to ensure that, you remember we brought, for the 3 years, we brought cash in transit to a zero. We brought the ATM bombings to a zero. We brought bank robberies to a zero at provincial level. We brought your bank followings to a minimal from on a scale of 10 to 10, 1 to 10 index, we brought your bank followings to a scale of 2. So meaning 80% or 90% of the bank followings. Bank followings is where you go and withdraw a large sum of money, and the people in the bank talk to the guys who are wearing the All-Star out there, the All-Star Crusade. I'm not saying anything about Converse. I'm just using an example. And by the way, I wear the Soviets. My sneakers are the Soviets, and it doesn't mean I have anything against Converse. Not just like the Soviets, and my son likes All-Star and Converse. So long story short, we are diversified in terms of the sneakers that we like in the house. Some are from the east, some are from the west. So long story short, I would advise that proper engagements, lessons are learned. Benchmarks shouldn't be the driving language or shouldn't be the key driver of game winning in crime prevention and game changing. I would advise that we look at what worked in South Africa from 2010 to 2013. And then what happened from 2013 to 2021 or 2022. Look at, you remember Gauteng was number 9 out of 9 provinces. And when General Petros came as a provincial commissioner and I came as the chairman of the community police board, we agreed to have a Gauteng co-created policing strategy. A co-created policing strategy from the community and the police. We created that strategy. You remember even in those little booklets that have the telephone numbers of all station commanders, all police stations. In Gauteng, you have 142 police stations. If my memory well, I left the Gauteng Provincial Community Police Board in 2015, 2016. So you do your study, you do your research, and look at, by then, what crimes were being committed and what modus operandi were being used to commit crime, and what platforms aided and abetted criminals in committing their crime. You look at the crime stats in terms of the up or down on the crime stats index, your hijacking index, your business robberies index, what you and I used to talk about, your trio crimes, your home invasion, your truck hijacking, and your business hijacking, and a business robbery is not business hijacking, and carjackings. So your trio crimes, you look at them and say, what is it that we can learn from others? Remember, General Petros went to New York. He spent time with the police commissioner there, Brayton, you remember, that now retired expert in community policing. Traveling from here to New York was one of those best things that we picked up, and we used that intelligence or that information or that knowledge to build a co-created policing strategy that included the minister, that included the MEC of safety and security in our province.
So Herb Nelson.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I was trying to send you a extract of Jamaica's Cybercrime Act, because I know that the Interpol has been very instrumental in pressing the idea. I believe you call it, it's something like 3.0 for cyber crimes, where you have put out a broad application of how cyber crimes are being committed. And it's like if an investigation is following the trends of old, where the detective goes out with their notebook and they question suspects and they write things down and they come back. The question is, how does the detective apply any predictive policing? In other words, can you follow what this suspect was doing online prior to during and after the crime to see if there are any leads from that suspect's computers that would help the police to resolve crime. We know also, and I've made a statement before, that there's a lot of things happening on the dark website that is not visible to the users of everyday internet. How would you expand the predictive policing in the Caribbean? In other words, how would you suggest that police train, especially in Jamaica, to be able to investigate cases without even coming out to see you? Because like the FBI, when they do some of these cases and they come out, they give you the opportunity to lie so that they can add that charge to everything else that they already have, right? I don't believe Jamaica has a charge of lying to the police that will get you 5 years or $10,000 fine. But the bottom line here is, if we now realize that cyber, where you have impersonations, romance scams, sextortion, investment fraud, the lotto scamming, which is very popular in Jamaica, and there's a lot of expansion out into the rest of the Caribbean now. How do you get a police department to go from a mindset of catching somebody in the act to where now you have to track and trace and use the internet? Is there a training program that Interpol has that they can come in and help to retool the JCF, so to speak? Because I know they have a small cyber unit, but as far as at each police station level, having somebody who's adept at cyber investigation or beginning a cyber investigation.
Ambassador?
Jeff and Will. Interpol has a state-of-the-art technology center in the Philippines. State-of-the-art. High level, well-resourced. Biometrics being used at your Philippines cyber security center. Just to surprise you, Microsoft has a cyber security center or a cyber crime center, very advanced. And in the event that we don't have access to Interpol cyber security or cyber intelligence or cyber security center, we have access to Microsoft. We can establish relationships. Two, it is very important to have that you and I share with the viewers, and Will, you would know, share with the viewers that at the local police station we used to have, or we have, what you call data capturers. Data capturers would then speak to what you and I refer to as big data, data analytics. I'm a fan of small data. If there's a book that I can advise all of us on this platform to read, would be Small Data by Martin Lindstrom, where you look at small behaviors, those behaviors leading to a larger pack of things that would come the way of law enforcement agencies in terms of investigation. Now, predictive policing would be informed by predictive analytics. And here in my home country, your predictive policing is informed by predictive analytics that happens at a high level. If that predictive data analytics would be a simple domain for your crime intelligence officers or your visible policing officer at police station level. It would help a great deal in terms of identifying crimes that would happen in the future based on the data that has been collected in the previous financial year, in the previous 5-year cycle, 3-year cycle, 5-year cycle, 10-year cycle backward, so that you can then determine and define who the criminals were and what crimes did they commit, how many times did they commit them, at what time of the day, at what day of the month, high in which season, low at which season, and specifically identification of your hotspot so that you can have your hotspot stabilization strategies and tactics, and also leading to hotspot normalization, meaning after stabilization, you go to the normalization phase so that that hotspot is permanently removed or is permanently destroyed, so that that area becomes user-friendly to members of the community who are using that freeway, who are using that off-ramp. So that towards the end of the day, from your data, your big data that you have analyzed, crunched, you are able to go into predictive policing. I think the major challenge in that space would be teaching people how to operate data science and how to use data science to ensure that police at local police station level, what you and I call the sneaker squad, understand your hotspots and hotspot stabilization and hotspot normalization from the small data, from the small little behaviors of the people in that hotspot. It would be a little bit easier for predictive policing to yield results. I think in the years that we spoke about earlier on, 2010 to 2013, whilst I was the chairperson of the provincial board, General Petros was the provincial commissioner. It was easy because most of the things at that time, we were already into the big data analytics, myself and General Petros and our various board members, as well as the police represented on the board. We were doing policing on a mathematical problem or on a science platform, so that at the end of the day, it's easier for the police to register effective arrest and also prosecution, helping the prosecution and leading up to the conviction, good and high conviction rates. In the process, building the morale of the law enforcement officers who are hunting down the criminals in the jungle of our street and our concrete jungles, be it your town, be it your villages, and be it your townships.
Ambassador,
your mic is muted.
Okay, sorry about that. I would think that in looking at the practices online of our local criminals, they would want to keep a record, either in Excel or some Microsoft program, which is very common. Because I don't think the sophistication of the local criminal is that of coding or encoding the work that they're doing. They may use simple terms to discuss how much drugs was moved or how many weapons that they may have on hand or something like that. Is this something that you look at? Are you able to look at the, say, computers or computer-driven programs on cell phones or any other methods that they use for storage? Is this a common thing that you may want to look at in course of investigations in South Africa that would help the local police? In other words, you would do it at a higher level, police level, but it would impact the local police in their townships, wherever they are. to let them know who they're dealing with and that you have a sophisticated criminal on hand, that is using cyber to enhance their criminal activities. Can you spot that this in the same way we could do it here in the US, whether we use an NSA or Cybercom or some other lower level operation if it heads to transnational crime?
It would be wonderful and marvelous if we were to have 1, the resources, 2, the knowledge, 3, the ability, 4, the prosecutorial understanding of the dynamics of your cybercrime law or cybercrime prevention strategies and tactics wrapped up in legislation. After those 4 critical points that I've shared with yourselves, when you look at the enactment of the cybercrime law in South Africa, I think it is 2 years old. Cybercrime prevention and laws, legislation relevant or attending to cybercrime prevention were always in the back burner. Not only in South Africa, but worldwide, except for the Americans who have been suffering brutal attacks by hackers, as well as Europe that has suffered brutal attacks from Eastern Europe and many other countries. We need to take cognizance of the fact that when we have resources, we will have a better understanding of the crime. We will have better strategies. We will have better tactics. We will have better results from a prosecution and conviction point of view. So, long story short, I always go out there to speak on platform like this, so that local law enforcement, your South African policing services, those who are at the echelon, see it from an ordinary man in the street, talking about it and encouraging them to provide better resources, better schooling, and or inviting experts at university level to come and share strategies and tactics, new developments, new platforms that have been developed, new modus operandi of crime using advanced technology, using your deep fake technology, using your name app and your face as well as your voice for the commission of crime. For the commission of crime against women, things and applications and software apps that would be, some of them called deep nude, that would undress a woman out there. When people understand those dynamics, people in leadership understand those dynamics, they would then be able to help us, people who are not in government, who are not in high positions, who are not responsible for legislation, but those people who are influencing government to continuously update their understanding as well as platforms and technologies. Look, if I am telling you that I am on an update of 16.2, the software on my phone, it is important that government should also
sorry, Ambassador.
dynamics.
Sorry to butt in, Ambassador. Could you just hold that thought for me? We're going to take a quick commercial break. Wherever watching and listening from around the world in the Eastern Caribbean, it is 11:30 in Kingston, Jamaica. 11:30 in South Florida. We're going to talk, when we come back on the other side, we're going to talk about the transnational crime. We're going to talk about the seizure of the cocaine here in Jamaica. We're speaking to Ambassador to South Africa, Andy Mashaila, along with Herb Nelson Jr., Wilfred Radigan. We'll be right back. We'll take a quick commercial break here on Roots 96.1 FM. Owen?
Remember your nurses, them now. Remember your doctors, them now.
For the best in music videos, production and promotions, wedding, graduations, and much more, look no further. WDT Media TV is your first stop. Call us now at 876-376-8418 or email us at wdtmedia@gmail.com. Call us now. We offer the best quality at the best price. Do not hesitate to call WDT Media TV.
Do you need graphic design services? Or maybe you need branding for your business? How about multimedia production services? Contact Browns Media and Graphics at 876-877-1870. Browns Media and Graphics, developing your ideas, creating your style.
Hi, I'm Sharon.
Hi, I'm Marcia.
I'm Adrian. Join us this and every Wednesday morning for Extraordinary Abilities on Roots 96.1 FM. Join us for news, views, and interviews with extraordinary people. Extraordinary Abilities every Wednesday morning, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on your extraordinary radio station, Roots 96.1 FM. It's gonna be fun, informative, and educational, but most of all, it will be extraordinary. Extraordinary.
This broadcast is also sponsored by Tavares Media Group.
Don't salute.
Welcome back to Make We Talk here on Roots 96.1 FM, the voice of the inner city. We're speaking to Ambassador to South Africa, Andy Mashile. He's also the Ambassador for Interpol. We're speaking to Herb Nelson Jr., Chairman of the Crime Security Committee Group, Institute of Caribbean Studies in Washington, D.C., former FBI agent attorney at law Wilfred Radigan. You know, I sit here and I listen to so much information. I hope the powers may be in the land of wood and water, the land of my birth. We came there by aeroplane, we came there by labor pain, not by aeroplane. And I hope the leaders in our country are listening to this program, because Ambassador is given some wealth of knowledge. He's speaking to us about what is going on in South Africa and what Interpol is doing to assist with the crime situation in South Africa. Ambassador, welcome back.
Can I just ask Ambassador one quick question before you learn? All right. Ambassador, you were just talking about the cyber threats, right? Along with my colleague Herb Nelson Jr. And one of the things I wanted to point out and ask you a question is this: in Jamaica, what we're seeing as far as cyber threat actors, we see some from the outside, but we see a significant number of cyber threat actors coming from the university. They don't have, they're qualified, but they don't have jobs in Jamaica to absorb these people into the working community. And so they have these skills, these cyber skills. And of course, you know, the devil make use of idle hands. We're also seeing a significant number of deportees coming back, people who they have some cyber skills before they went to prison overseas, or they acquired it while they were in prison, being affiliated with people from Eastern Europe and other parts of Africa. So the problem is significant, because now you have to deal with the cyber threat actors coming from the outside, which is going to require a tremendous amount of investment and investigation. and then you have your locals. What are you seeing in South Africa? Are you seeing the same problem? And how do you deal with that in South Africa?
Unmute your mic, Ambassador. Your mic is muted, Ambassador. Your mic is muted. Unmute your mic, Ambassador. Go ahead.
You are seeing similarities. There are similarities in between the two countries in terms of their experience or those experiences. When they don't have the space that absorbs them for them to realize their skills, they go out there and do what they do best, which is I can show them that I'm skilled. I can show them that I have the best knowledge and I can't be stopped. So long story short, when there is a gap of the skill that the criminals or the young criminals to be can fit, they would walk away from crime. But when there is no gap, meaning when there is no opportunity, they will be lured by the crime bosses. Remember now, crime has changed from physical engagement. The criminals don't want to feel pain. And what is it that they will do? They will go to a pain-free platform to commit crime. You can't beat them up when you arrest them online because it's difficult for you to arrest them online. They will steal your money, they will steal information, they will sell your private images online onto the deep web. They will steal the personal identifiable information from your banks, from your loyalty programs that you have with your big supermarkets there, the cards, the loyalty cards. They will sell that information and they won't feel pain when they are arrested, as opposed to when they go for a cash in transit heist. There might be an exchange of bullets between them and the JCF and the SAPS, and they will be hit. So they have shifted the modus operandi. Less pain, more money would be your crime space. So what we need to do is to invest in educating young people and also absorbing them into the JCF and SAPS so that policing of the future is relevant with the skills that they have. Let me cite an example, Jeff. Go ahead, Jeff.
Okay, I want to come back to you, Will. Just a question. I want to come back to you, Will. So, Ambassador, that means, would you say that online banking is not safe then? Because if people are going to the online to thief all your identity and so forth, that means online banking is not safe.
Online banking is not safe. Let me tell you why. There is no security system that does not have flaws. There is no strong army in the world that does not have a weakness. There is no stone that cannot be cracked. There is no metal that cannot be pierced. And you look at the weak point of any security system. Online banking as a security system, the weakest link of that security chain would be the human beings between yourself, Jeffrey, your ATM card, the server of Bank A or Bank B, and the people responsible for maintaining the server and programming the server, and the ability of the hardware to detect malware before it ravages your bank account, before it becomes a ransomware. The gaps that I've identified in terms of the human element makes it easy for criminals to hack us. There is no antivirus that is 100% safe. It would be 100% safe if it was operated by an artificially intelligent robot, because it would understand your clicks, it would predict the text, it would know when you write JEF, Jeffrey follows. You see Jeffrey popping up. Artificial intelligence, making it easy for your phone and making it easy for your gadget, so that it saves its time and it saves the space in its brain. So when you have human beings as part and parcel of a security system, particularly your cyber security chain, you would know that human beings would be problematic because they would click the link that they're not supposed to click. They would want to see what's in that USB stick that they have put in, that you have given them at the conference. They would want to check. And that USB stick, don't go collecting USB sticks that you have been given free at the conference. Some of them might be put there on the table by hackers, knowing fully well that they would want to load malware onto your system. So long story short, the weakest link in a cybersecurity chain is the human element. I was talking to some cybersecurity engineer or so-called expert who was telling me that updating my phone, many of those things, and updating my software would not add value in cybersecurity. And I looked at this guy and I thought, this must be some textbook expert with no experience in terms of investigation will and in terms of crimes that are committed and how organizations, law enforcement organizations, chase criminals. If that guy gave me advice, I would have asked him to leave with immediate effect. But when you engage with people, you allow them to learn. And when they think they know better than you, you know that they don't know how to investigate. And you don't know how you know that they don't understand the modus operandi of criminals when they are on platforms like your operating systems, be it your iOS or your Android operating system. Software needs to be updated, and the human software, the emotions of the human being leads the human being to committing mistakes, creating gaps in your defense systems. Let me tell you a story of a man who was traveling. He was a CEO traveling on the subway train. It's in America. This gentleman saw a beautiful woman, and all the time getting onto this the subway train at station A. And one day he decided to go and stand on the rail next to, or on the pole next to where the seat of this woman, because he was seeing this woman regularly. And for some strange reason, he was reading the newspaper leaning against the pole. And he was dying to get the numbers of this woman. So the woman came and stood by that rail in the train also, or that pole in the train. And this guy did not realize that the woman dropped off in his jacket, dropped off a USB with a heart on it. The woman got off the station where she normally drops off. This gentleman went to the office. Upon searching his jacket, he picked up that USB. That USB had a little heart. So the guy thought that maybe the woman was also interested in him. He asked himself, who stood next to me? And he realized that for the entire duration, it was the woman who came next to him. He took that memory stick. He thought that there might be some contact details on the memory stick. Boom! Onto the central processing unit. Oh my God. Long story short, the organization became a victim of ransomware, and they paid about $50 million. So picking up those sticks from conferences, from women who we meet, from people who give us the free SIM cards for our phones. Keep away from those things, because you don't know how they have been configured to get information about you and your organization, and to what damage that they could lead. The emotion of looking at that woman, the emotion, love and desire, that woman saw from a distance that this guy is interested in me, and this is my next victim.
Let me
I'm going to let you speak, Mr. Rattigan. I'm going to let you speak. Just give me a minute there. It is now 11:46. We come off at 12 o'clock. I don't know if Ambassador can give us an extra 2 minutes or so after 12. Can you, Ambassador?
I couldn't hear you clearly.
No, I'm saying, I don't know if you can give us an extra 15 minutes of your time, because we come off at 12 o'clock Jamaica time.
Not a problem.
Okay. Mr. Rattigan?
Yes.
Ask your question, and we're going to ask Ambassador to just wrap up here. We're on Roots. And then ask Mr. Herb to give his final word also. But we're going to go over to the Make We Talk Jeffrey Tavares YouTube channel for the next 15 minutes. Go ahead, Mr. Rattigan.
Right. Yeah, this is just a personal observation in line with what the ambassador said. And this is a case I actually worked on. Just to illustrate the difficulty in addressing cybercrime. There was a subject who was deported to a country in East Africa where he came from. And while he was there, he came up with this scheme where he would go on the dark web and he would purchase those strips that the ambassador mentioned, that you have to be careful with your ATM cards. Because they sell those things in the dark web. And he would purchase those strips, and he had his confederates in America, lots of them. And he would send the strips over to them, and they would have blank bank cards. And they would put the strip on. And he would tell them that on a certain date, at a certain time, you hit all the ATM machines you can for this bank. And they did. And in 3 hours, they stole more than $10 million. And this is going way back in history. This is not something that happened yesterday. So you know that's a lot of money. And what he did was, he was out of the country because he was deported. And he had an agreement with his confederates that they would send him 70% of whatever they took, because they were supposed to take the maximum they could out of the ATM machines. And the way he had it configured was, or the way he had it arranged, his confederates would send the money via Western Union to him in West Africa. And what he would do is, they didn't send it to him by name. They would send, in those days you could send money and all you had to do was the person receiving it would have a code. So for example, if I'm sending the money, I would say I'm sending it to West Africa, and the person who's going to pick it up, they must answer the question, what color is the sky? And you would say the sky is red. And then that's how they would get the money. So they didn't really have to show ID to get the money. So he collected the money there, and he didn't touch it. He didn't touch the money when he got to West Africa. He had confederates on that side. They picked up those funds. And then what he did, he actually flew to South Africa. They deposited in their bank, but he had a bank account in South Africa. And he would fly to South Africa and take the money out of his account there. Now, if you follow that investigative thread, you would see that there's no trace of him purchasing the strips. There's no trace of him using the strips to get the money out of the banks in America. There's no trace of him wiring that money to West Africa. There's no trace of him wiring the money from West Africa to South Africa. There's only a trace of him taking the money out of his bank account in South Africa. And through investigative work, we actually caught him. I was there when we caught him. In Hatfield, Ambassador, we caught him. And I sat him down and I interviewed this man. Nice guy, nicest guy. And I said to him, what would you suggest I put my money if I want to hide my money from somebody like you? And he said, the only place your money is safe from somebody like me is in your mattress. Because if you put it anywhere in a bank, if you have anything to do with the internet or anything like that, your money is just a matter of time before your money is mine. So I just wanted to illustrate that point to show how difficult it is for law enforcement to keep up. And like the ambassador was saying, they're 10 steps ahead in terms of technology, in terms of the initiatives, the criminal mind. They're way ahead. So we're always trying to play catch up. So again, just listen to what the ambassador said and just be careful with how you conduct your transactions and how you take things from people.
Ambassador, your mic is muted, Ambassador. Your mic is muted. Unmute your mic. And
let me add on to what Will is saying.
But before you do that, Ambassador, before you do that, it's 11:52 and the station is telling me to wrap up anytime soon. So just give your answer to Wilfred Radigan and also your final words to the law enforcement in Jamaica. Go ahead, sir.
Let's start with the law enforcement agency in Jamaica, the JCF. I want to thank them for the good work that they are doing, despite the resources challenges that they might be having, despite the challenges of having people not willing to provide them with information so that they can go out there and do it. I was talking to the ordinary guys on the field. Let me talk to the leadership of the law enforcement agencies and the criminal justice cluster. Please ensure that you provide resources. Please ensure that you provide the necessary expertise, number 2. Number 3, please go into public-private partnerships with universities in terms of the expertise that they have developed in terms of technologies, applications, and all those gadgets that will make it easy for the detectives or the investigators to follow crime, as well as make it easy from a data point of view, your predictive data point of view, so that the guys in the vans and the vehicles or the sneaker squad in the street are able to make use of in seeing crimes that are going to be committed and stopping them from being committed. The second point, it is difficult. Will has explained it so nice and so simple. It is against that background that we urge all other institutions within society to formulate partnerships with the police and ensure that in that process they help law enforcement agencies, be it JCF or SAPS, they help them with information that will help crime from being committed. When you hear women scream in your neighborhood, ensure that you don't go there and you participate in stopping the crime. Make sure that law enforcement agencies know. Call your law enforcement agents, your local law enforcement agents. 2, identify the perpetrators of crime. 3, ensure that your organizations that are crime fighting have the necessary resources. Like maybe you have Crime Stoppers International, or maybe you have some crime prevention organization. Help them establish crowdfunding so that they can have people sitting full time, like criminals do. Hackers have their own call centers, calling you and I, Jeff, sending out emails that you have not updated your Standard Bank account. When you don't bank with Standard Bank, when you bank with First National Bank, they have their own call center. The community police organization or fora must be advised on how to set up funding through a Section 21 company, for the want of a better word, over there, so that they can have the resources, so that they can have the better technology, so that the police can work hand in glove with them in solving your kidnapping problems, solving all other problems. Work with the police, let it be an intelligence-driven. Intelligence-driven operations require resources.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Wilfred Radigan. Your final word before we go. Give me a minute because it's 11:56. Give me 1 minute, please.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to be here with this distinguished panel, and I look forward to our discussion on your YouTube channel. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir Herb Nelson Jr., I know you can't come over. Your final word to your countrymen.
Yes, I'm happy the ambassador went into detail with me on the cybercrime issues, because I do believe what former professor from UTEC told me, that unemployed computer science students were responsible for probably 80% or more of all cyber crimes in Jamaica, possibly in the entire Caribbean. So if we are not willing to look at sources of where crime develops, we should be looking at that now. Another area which I know we have really covered a whole lot of has been the areas of flows. Who's generating the flow of weapons? Who's generating the flow of drugs? Who's generating from what country? Mexico, Colombia? Who's doing all this? And is this a throwback to the late 70s, 80s, where we had a lot of illicit operations ongoing that in some cases were government sanctioned? So we need to take a hard look at that in the next instance.
Thank you very much. We must say thanks to Ambassador Andy Mashaila, who is also the ambassador to South Africa in charge of Interpol, ambassador for Interpol in South Africa. Wilfred Radigan, attorney at law, special agent, supervisor for the FBI. Herbert Nelson Jr., chairman of the Crime Security Committee Group Institute of Caribbean Studies in Washington, D.C. I must say thanks to my sponsors, Brown Media, WDT Media TV, Tavares Media Group. And I say, Happy New Year to everyone. Until you hear my voice again, next week, Tuesday, when I come to you with something more pertaining to crime in Jamaica. I am Jeffrey Tavares saying thank you all very much. Returning to the studios of Roots 96.1 FM. Owen Brown, take it away. Owen? Oh, Lord.